Today I'm going to make for you a very classic Punjabi paratha. It is besan paratha. Now, funny thing is, this paratha is usually never served in a restaurant. I've never seen it. Maybe they do, but I have never seen it in any of the restaurants here. But it is one of the most delicious parathas I've ever eaten. It's made with chickpea flour and whole wheat flour, and it has spices, onions, peppers, and it's so delicious. So let's go ahead and make our delicious besan paratha. One thing I will tell you honestly is this requires a little bit of skill in how to make roti or paratha because it does require making the dough, knowing the right consistency of dough, and then rolling the dough. So, but stick with me, and it might take a few tries, but I'm sure you'll get it. So, give it a good try. To make our besan paratha, today I'm using 3 cups of chickpea or besan flour, 1.5 cups of whole wheat flour or roti ka atta. So here's the thing, I'm making a large quantity today, but you can make as little or as much as you want. The proportion I like is 1 cup measurement of besan to 1/2 cup of the whole wheat atta. That gives you a really nice besan flavor, but it also lets you roll the parathas easily. So again, 1 to 1/2. So this is 3 cups to 1.5 cup of whole wheat flour. And the spices are very simple. This is a must. So this is crushed coriander powder. I crushed it fresh using my coffee grinder because you don't want a very fine powder. So you just crush coarsely. But if you don't want to do that, and if you just have coriander powder, that's perfectly fine. Salt to taste. For this quantity, I'm using 1 tablespoon of salt. I have 1 big heaping teaspoon of turmeric and 1 heaping teaspoon of red chili powder. And then what I'm going to add in it are, I have 2 red onions. I had some spring onions. So there's 3 stalks of spring onions. Those are optional. I just had them, and so I just added in. And then I have 4 green chilies. So that's where the heat is going to come from. But if you don't want to add green chilies and up your red chili powder, that's perfectly fine. And then I just have a little bit of the whole wheat flour to help me when I roll the parathas. So let's go ahead and get started. And then I have some water. I just want a nice stiff, like a roti dough. So I'm going to start with, a 1 cup of water and then see how much we need. But that is, again, you have to feel it. You actually have to make the dough, and you don't want it liquid or anything. You just want a nice, soft roti dough. And then I'm also going to add, once I add my spices and the onion mixture, 2 tablespoons of oil in the dough. So let's go ahead and get started. One thing I wanted to make sure to note is that the onion mixture needs to be very finely chopped. You don't want an onion paste, but the onions have to be finely chopped. So I just take a shortcut and do it in my food processor. But if you want, you can also hand chop it. But for me, it's just worth to pull it out the giant food processor and to make this. So I'm gonna mix this, add my oil, and then using my hand, like my fingers, I'm gonna make a nice dough. Okay, I've added my oil. Now I'm gonna add water slowly. Don't add all the water at once, just slowly add the water to make a nice soft dough. Okay, so I've mixed everything in, and as you can see, the dough is still quite sticky. I would not be able to roll this out as right now. I'm going to let this dough rest for about ½ hour and then decide if I want to sprinkle any more whole wheat flour just to kind of make the dough more rollable. And I can also add a little bit of oil to reduce the stickiness. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and cover this with saran wrap and then let it rest for about half hour. So my dough has rested for about half hour and I'm feeling it. It's a lot less sticky. So I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle about 2 tablespoons of the whole wheat flour and then make my dough balls, and then we will roll it into our parathas. I have my dough balls ready and they're about tennis ball size. These are very hearty and substantial parathas. So I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I have 2 in the thing. So about 10 parathas from this recipe. So you want that dough to be pliable. Again, this is very much trial and error on how to make the dough. So if you are experienced roti maker or you make parathas on a regular basis, then this will be very easy for you. But for someone who's not that experienced or doesn't make paratha often, it might be a little bit of trial and error to see the right consistency of the dough. But basically you want a pliable dough, and when you press your finger, it should not stick to your finger. So basically that's all it is to making this dough. So now we're gonna go ahead and roll this out, and then I'll show you how to cook the paratha. So to roll the paratha, I need a rolling surface. If you don't have this, you can always clean your granite countertops and roll it on there. But I do have this really nice wood block to roll my rotis or paratha, and then I need a rolling pin. I have this thin one, but you can use any kind of rolling pin. So the first step is to take one of our balls and then put it in the whole wheat flour. That way it won't stick, and then we're gonna go ahead and roll this out. Okay, so confession time. For the life of me, I cannot roll a round paratha. So I rolled this thin. Now at this point, I could take a nice big bowl, put it, and then cut it into a circle, and then have all the edges. Or I just tend to make a square paratha, which is, I'm just gonna fold this in, make a square, and then roll it out. So my paratha is going to be a square paratha. And then I'm gonna roll it out. It's just much easier for me. But if you're experienced and you can roll out a nice, perfectly circular paratha, then hats off to you. And here is my rolled paratha. So the key with the besan paratha is you have to cook it slowly because you want that besan to cook well. So here I have my tawa going and it's at medium low and it's getting hot. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here and then cook it very slowly on both sides before adding the oil. So don't be in a rush to flip it. You want the side to be cooked well before you flip it to the other side. So let's go ahead and let it cook for about a minute or 2. Okay, so checking our paratha. Let's see. And it's perfectly cooked on that side. We're gonna cook the other side and then brush a little bit of oil, and our paratha is ready to eat. Delicious. I know it was a little bit of a hard work making that dough, but trust me, when you eat this, it'll be totally worth it. It is so delicious. And it's healthy because it has chickpea flour instead of just wheat flour. So it's a combination of chickpea and wheat with the onions and the chili pepper. It's just such a delicious, spicy paratha. Well worth it. So to cook this, I'm just going to add a little bit of oil. You can also use a pastry brush to brush the oil on top. Very little. You're not frying, like deep frying the paratha or anything. You're just lightly brushing the surface with oil so that it gives you that really nice taste. I must tell you, it smells unbelievable. Cooked chickpeas give such a beautiful fragrance. Also, if you notice, it's not like a paper thin paratha. It's still pretty hearty. It's not thick, but it's also not like super thin like a roti. I would say the thickness is about like a tandoori roti, like that. So we're gonna cook this on the other side, and if you see, is just delicious. I'm gonna brush this side with a little oil, and then we are done to eat this paratha. You can eat this with yogurt or raita or just with a cup of tea. Today I'm gonna eat this with the raita, and I'm gonna link that video below so you can see how to make the raita. But the combination of besan paratha with the yogurt-based raita is just unbelievable. And here is our delicious lunch. I have my besan paratha with a little cucumber raita and some pickles. No paratha is complete without a little pat of butter. Paratha is one thing where you do not eat ghee. Butter is the best choice if you do want to eat butter on it. Otherwise, you can just eat it plain with the yogurt and it's still delicious. You can also have this with a cup of chai and it makes it an amazing breakfast or lunch. So this was a little bit labor of love, but trust me, the end result is amazing. So please go ahead and give this a try. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell and enjoy making this delicious besan paratha.